Okay, kiddos, let's review how we're going to solve one-step equations. All right, so when we solve one-step equations, we're going to look at the equation and see what the operation is. If it's addition, the inverse to solve it's going to be subtraction. If it's subtraction, the inverse or the opposite, of course, is addition. Multiplication, the opposite is division. And division, the opposite is multiplication. All right, so let's take a look at these problems right over here and get right into solving. So if we see these four right over here, we're going to ask ourselves which one of the operations are going on with the x. So we're going to solve the one-step operations for x. So we're asking ourselves what's happening with x on each of these. So pause the video for a moment and see if you can solve these first on your own. All right, hopefully you pause that. Let's try this first one, at least, if you didn't do that. We see what's happening to x is it's being added, right? So the opposite is subtraction. So we can just draw our line down the equal sign to help us do the same thing on both sides. So the opposite of that positive 3, okay, is going to be negative 3, right? So we just put negative 3 over there. So we just ask ourselves, what's the opposite of what's going on over here? So then we just go from left to right, just like we read a book. We're just going to bring down that x, right? These two opposites cancel out. And then 10, we can put that in our calculator, 10 plus negative 3. So we're just going to add those together. Or we can put 10 minus 3. But if we just continue to add, because these add together to 0, just add 10 plus negative 3 gives us 7. So our answer is x equals 7. All right. Keeping that in mind, try this next one. Pause the video. Try it on your own. All right. So on this one, we would say if that's the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. Right. We draw our line down there. So if we're going to do the same thing to both sides. Okay. Working from left to right, we said these opposites right over here cancel out. So we're just going to bring down x equals, and we said we're always going to add those. Right. 2 plus 5 is 7. So this answer is also x equals 7. All right, now this one's a little bit different. This one just has a number next to the variable, but it's in front. So we know which one of these is always when the number is front of the variable. Okay, we know it's not addition because we don't see a plus. We know it's not subtraction, so it has to be multiplication. So the inverse is division. So we're going to say if 9 is multiplied times x, the opposite is divide. So if we're going to divide this left side by 9, that means divide. We have to do the same thing to the right, right? Because we say it's equal. So we're going to divide that side by 9. So working from left to right, if we have the same thing on top and bottom, we know that those two cancel. So we're just going to bring down x. And then this is 18 divided by 9. If we put that in a calculator, that's going to give us the answer of 2. So our answer is x equals 2. All right, next, moving on. Now, this is the most difficult as far as looks go, but it's actually quite easy to solve. So this one we know, this says that x is being divided by 7, right? We're asking what is happening to the x, right? This is being divided. So the opposite or inverse operation is multiplication. So on this one, we are going to cross multiply. Okay, so if you remember that cross multiplying, imagine right over here, if I had this as a fraction, what would I put that over? That would be 10 over what number without changing the value? It would have to be 1, right? 10 over 1 is the same thing as 10. So now let's do that butterfly. Okay, so I'm just going to do this right here and then this right here. So I can start with either one. I like starting with the one with the x. So we have x times 1, right? Or you can think 1 times x. 1 times x is still just x, right? So I like to start with the one with my variable. Then right over here, 7 times 10. We can put that in our calculator. 7 times 10 is 70. Okay, so that's the basics of it right there. We're just going to do the inverse operation.